What is up guys, it's Cal, and in this video we'll be taking a look at Affliction locks in the Battle for Azeroth beta. There are definitely a good number of changes. Just like my other overview videos, this isn't meant to tell you which talents to pick for the best DPS, or if Affliction is better than the other two specs at DPS. This is merely to show you what's to come, and these changes will be going live sometime mid-July, so this is a pretty good representation of how they'll be by then. So I'm going to be showing you all of the baseline abilities and passives, as well as the talents and PvP talents. Also some slight changes to your demon pets. So anyways, let's get started. So these are all of the baseline abilities for Affliction Warlocks. Let's start off with Soulstone. It's still your battle res, it's relatively unchanged. The only change to it is it will no longer cost mana, still a 10-minute cooldown. You can use it to battle res targets and it will heal them, or it will res them with 60% health and 20% mana. Unending Resolve is unchanged, still a defensive cooldown. 3-minute cooldown reduces all damage you take by 40% and grants immunities to interrupts and silences for 8 seconds. Banish is also unchanged. You can use it on a demon, aberration, elemental, and they'll be banished for 30 seconds. They can't do anything, and then you can of course cast Banish on them again to get rid of it. Health stones are unchanged. Still heals you for 25% of your health. Remember, you won't have your artifact weapon anymore, so party raid members who use health stones will not heal you, because you won't have the Sweet Souls artifact trait. Create Soul Well, same thing goes with health stones. It's not changed at all. Ritual of Summoning is not changed. You could still summon a lock closet and summon people to your location. Health Funnel is, well, slightly changed, I guess. You can now sacrifice 25% of your health to heal your demon, whereas on live, I believe that's 24%. Then we have Seed of Corruption, which is unchanged. You can place it on a target and then deal enough damage to the target, it'll explode and it will affect all enemies around the target with corruption. Then we have Summon Dark Glare, which is baseline to Affliction. Now this used to be a demonology talent. Now, as I just said, baseline to Affliction, and its effect is changed. So it's a 3-minute cooldown, summons a Dark Glare from the Twisting Nether that extends the duration of your damage over time effects on all targets by 8 seconds. The Dark Glare will serve you for 20 seconds, blasting its target for some shadow damage, increasing by 10% for every damage over time effect you have active on any target. So there's that. Then there's Shadow Fury. Shadow Fury is baseline to Affliction locks. Now this used to be a demonology and destruction talent. Now baseline to Affliction locks. The only change to it is its cooldown. Well, two small changes. Its cooldown is being increased from 30 seconds to 1 minute, but you can actually decrease that down to 45 seconds with a talent, which I'll talk about when I get to the talents, but its base cooldown is 1 minute, and it stuns all targets for 3 seconds, which is down from 4 seconds on live, because the thing is that they're trying to nerf or get rid of like all AoE stuns. I'm actually surprised that they gave this to Affliction locks, but they did, and they slightly nerfed it. Then we have Demonic Gateway is unchanged. You can place a Demonic Gateway on a position and you can click it. It activates the gateway, transports the user to the other gateway. Each player can use a Demonic Gateway only once every 1.5 minutes. And then Unending Breath is of course unchanged. You can place it on a target. They can breathe underwater for 10 minutes and their swim speed is increased by 20%. Now let's go down to the damaging abilities. Corruption is unchanged, so you still corrupt the targets. Shadow damage over 14 seconds. It's one of your main dots. Agony, your other main dot, is also unchanged. Place it on a target. Ramps up to 10 stacks baseline. You can, of course, talent that to be 15 stacks. And the damage starts low and it increases over time. Then Unstable Affliction, which did get a buff to it. So it still does the same thing as it afflicts a target with some shadow damage over 8 seconds. You may afflict the target with up to 5 Unstable Afflictions at once. But then you can deal 10% increased damage to targets affected by your Unstable Affliction. Now this used to be a talent for Affliction locks called Contagion. That's what it is on live. Now that talent is baked into Unstable Affliction, except Contagion is 15%, whereas the effect baked into Unstable Affliction in BFA is 10%. So there's that. And now Shadow Bolt. So Affliction is getting Shadow Bolt, but it no longer generates a Soul Shard. So this is your main filler move. So just cast it on a target when your dots are up. And then Drain Life. So Affliction locks do not have Drain Soul as baseline anymore. They're getting Drain Life back. Drain Soul is a talent though. And what Drain Soul did is it healed you for 200% of the damage it did. Now old Drain Life healed you for 600% of the damage it does. Now this new Drain Life heals you for 500% of the damage it does. So you do have that in case you want to, well, heal yourself. And then we have Fear. Fear is of course the same. You can fear a target for 20 seconds and then damage can cancel the effect. Control Demon, I'll get to that in a minute because I'm actually going to be talking about the demons and the changes to them. Enslave Demon is unchanged. You can still enslave a demon target that's one level above you and they're forced to do your bidding for 5 minutes. Eye of Kilrog is unchanged. You can summon an eye and travel around places and search around. Now as you can see for the baseline abilities, there's no more Summon Doomguard or Summon Infernal. They did take that out. There's also no more life tap, but I've noticed that actually mana regen is a lot better, so you won't be stripped for mana a lot, meaning you have to just spam life tap to get your mana back up. Mana regen, or I guess the mana cost for these things, is a lot better now. Now let's take a look at the passive abilities. So Mastery, the only change to Mastery is it will now affect Seed of Corruption. It doesn't do that on live, and I think they did actually reduce the percentage. I'm not too sure on that, but its base percentage does seem like it's reduced. Soul Leech did have a nerf to it, so all single target damage by you and your minions grant you and your pet shadowy shields that absorb 8% on live. That's 10%, although the 10% is increased with your artifact weapon, but in BFA it's 8% for 15 seconds, up to 10% of maximum health, whereas on live that's 15% of maximum health. And then you of course have your soul shards, which aren't changed at all. And now let's take a look at the demons. So I'm going to summon my succubus here, and look at this new effect here. There's a little void tear. My succubus is summoned. That's really cool. That's actually for all of the demons, which I'll go through all of them now. So for the succubus, Whiplash has been changed slightly, so it will now slow an enemy by 50% instead of knocking them back, and it can be put on auto. So you see, you can right click it, put it on auto. You cannot do that on live. And Seduction is now your control demon ability instead of Whiplash, and it cannot be put on auto. That is the new control demon ability for the succubus. Now let's talk about the Fell Hunter. Notice the little rift tear on the other side of me, and there he is. So for the Fell Hunter, the only two changes are that Spell Lock no longer costs energy from your Fell Hunter, which is nice, and Devour Magic cannot be put on auto. So it still does the same thing, purchase one beneficial magic effect from the target, and if the effect is devoured, it heals the Fell Hunter and then gives it 60 energy. And then for the Voidwalker, rift tear right there, it's a much darker blue. So first I want to take a look at the passives for the Voidwalker. Shadow Shield is now a passive for the Voidwalker instead of an ability you activate. So it encases the Voidwalker in shadow energy, reducing physical damage taken by 40%. And then the other change to it is that Shadow Bulwark is now the control demon ability. So it still does the same thing, temporarily increases current and maximum health by 30% for 20 seconds. That is of your Voidwalker, not you. And the old control demon ability used to be, what was it? It was Suffering, which was the taunt, but now Shadow Bulwark. And then let's bring out the Imp here. I got a green little rift tear. So here we see that Flee can now be put on auto. So you can right click it, put it on auto. It still does the same thing. Escapes the master, removing all stuns and roots from himself. And the Imp no longer has Cauterize Master, which used to be the control demon ability. Now Singe Magic is the control demon ability. And it still does the same thing. Burns harmful spells, removing one harmful magic effect from an ally for a 15-second cooldown. And then if you see here, up on my buffs, Blood Pact is coming back. Increases your stamina by 5%. So this is actually removed in Legion, but now it's brought back for BFA. So here are all of the talents for the Affliction Warlock, and there's changes on every single tier. There are quite a bit of changes. I'll also go over all the PvP talents in case you care about those. So starting off with the first tier, Nightfall is returning. This was removed in Legion, and its effect has changed. So its passive corruption damage has a chance to cause your next Shadow Bolt, because Shadow Bolt is the thing for Affliction locks now, to be instant and deal 25% increased damage. Then we have Drained Soul, which as I mentioned before, is becoming a talent. And its effect has changed slightly, so it drains target soul, causing shadow damage over a certain amount of time. Damage is increased by 100% against enemies below 20% health, and it generates one soul shard if the target dies during this effect. Then there's Death Bolt, which is new. It's a 30-second cooldown, launches a bolt of death at the target, dealing 30% of the total remaining damage of all your damage over time effects on the target. So interesting ability right there. Next tier, we have Writhe and Agony. So Writhe and Agony was just moved down a tier. That's it. Its effect is still the same. Agony damage may now ramp up to 15. Absolute Corruption did have a slight nerf to it. So Corruption is now permanent and deals 15% increased damage, whereas on live, that's 25%. And duration still reduced to 24 seconds against players. So Siphon Life was moved all the way up to this tier from the last tier, and it did get a nerf to it. So siphons the target's life essence, dealing some shadow damage over 15 seconds, and it heals you for 30% of the damage done, whereas on live, it is 60% of the damage done. Then for the level 45 tier, now all of these abilities should look familiar because they were all on the level 75 tier on live, so everything on the level 75 tier was just moved up to the level 45 tier. They do still have some changes though. So Demon Skin was nerfed slightly, so your Soul Leech absorption now passively recharges at a rate of 0.5% on live, that's 1%, of maximum health every 1 second, and you may now absorb up to 15% of maximum health, whereas on live that is 20%. Then Burning Rush is unchanged at all. You can still use it and increases your movement speed by 50%, but it will hurt you for 4% of your health every 1 second, and you cannot be slowed below normal running speed. Dark Pact did get a nerf to it, so it will no longer sacrifice your demon's health. It will now sacrifice your health, which is what it does on live if you don't have a demon out, but it will now put a shield on you for 250% of the sacrificed health, whereas on live that's 400%. Then the level 60 tier, so the seeds, so Seed of Corruption now embeds a demon seed into one additional nearby enemy. On live that is 2. Phantom Singularity. Its cooldown was increased from 40 seconds to 45 seconds, still places a Phantom Singularity above the target, which consumes the life of all enemies within 15 yards, dealing some damage over some amount of time, healing you for 25% of the damage done, whereas on live that's 20%. So the cooldown was increased slightly, and it heals you for a bit more. And then Vile Taint is new, so 20-second cooldown unleashes a Vile Explosion at the target's location, dealing some shadow damage over 10 seconds to all enemies within 10 yards, and reduces their movement speed by 30%. So interesting ability right there. And then Dark Fury is new because Shadow Fury is coming to Affliction, and this will reduce the cooldown of your Shadow Fury by 15 seconds. Mortal Coil is, I don't think it's changed at all. Still 45-second cooldown, use on targets and they will be feared, and it heals you for 20% of your maximum health. And then Demonic Circle is not changed at all. You still put down a Demonic Circle on the ground, you can use it again and port to that circle. The only change to it is that it was moved down to this tier. So Shadow Embrace is new. I believe that this was an ability like a while back, but then it was removed in Mist to Pandaria. But its effect is changed, so Shadow Bolt applies Shadow Embrace, increasing your damage dealt to the target by 3% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. And then Haunt was just moved down to this tier, and it did have some slight changes to it. So its cooldown is 15 seconds, down from 25 seconds. A Ghostly Soul haunts a target, dealing some shadow damage, and increases your damage dealt to the target by 10% for 15 seconds. I believe on live that is 15% for 10 seconds. And then still, if the target dies, Haunt's cooldown is reset. And then Grimoire of Sacrifice is still the same. You can use this and it will sacrifice your demon. The only change to it is it will no longer damage enemies, or when you use it, you no longer have a chance to damage enemies within 8 yards of your current target. Then Soul Conduit, every soul shard you spend has a 15% chance to be refunded. On live that's 20%. Creeping Death is new, so your Agony, Corruption, and Siphon Life, and Unstable Affliction deal their full damage 15% faster. And then Dark Soul Misery is coming back, so this was removed in Legion and it does the exact same thing. Still a 2-minute cooldown, infuses your soul with the misery of fallen foes, increasing haste by 30% for 20 seconds. So those are all of the normal talents. Now let's talk about PvP talents. If you're unaware of how PvP talents will work in BFA, this is how it goes. You have 4 bubbles here. This top bigger bubble is the same for all classes and all specs. It has Gladiator's Medallion, Adaptation, and Relentless. Those are all in the first tier on live. They do the exact same thing. You get to pick between one of these. Then the next 3 are a giant pool of your already existing PvP talents that you could pick from. So it's no longer on a tier system. Maybe there are 3 that you really like on live that are on the same tier. You can pick them all in BFA. Now for the most part, they're not changed. There have been 3 of them that have been changed slightly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mouse over them, read the names. If you want to know what they do, you can pause the video or look at your Affliction lock. But for the 3 that have been slightly changed, I will go over them and talk about what has been changed. So there's Curse of Tongues, Curse of Weakness, Curse of Fragility, and the only change to this is it will reduce the target's maximum health by 15%, whereas on live, that's 20%. There's Endless Affliction, Soul Shatter, Gateway Mastery, Rotten Decay, Curse of Shadows, Nether Ward, and the only change to Nether Ward is it will now last on you for 3 seconds, whereas on live, that's 5 seconds. So a bit of a nerf there. Then there's Essence Drain, and then Casting Circle. And then the changes to Casting Circle is its cooldown is being increased from 30 seconds to 1 minute. It will last 8 seconds on the ground instead of 10 seconds on live. And on live, it grants you like a 70% reduction to all silences and interrupts. Well, in BFA, it'll be a full reduction. You're immune to silences and interrupts, but if you learn this ability, then Unending Resolve no longer grants you its immunity to silence and interrupt effect that Unending Resolve has. So, those are all the PvP talents as well as all of the normal talents. And there you have it, all the changes to Affliction locks in the BFA beta. As mentioned, I don't think there will be a whole lot of changing before these effects go live sometime in mid-July, whenever patch 8.0 comes, most likely July 17th. Mark my words. But anyways guys, I'm curious to know what you think. Do you like these changes or do you hate them? And what do you hate exactly? There were quite a few nerfs to be fair, but most of the classes seem to be getting a majority of nerfs. But if you guys like this video, you can leave a like on it, you can sub to the channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.